The price of a lie. They say love is blind. But for 5 years, my love wasn't just blind, it was deaf and mute. I gave up my own dreams, working 2 jobs, so my husband could achieve his. I thought we were building a future. I didn't know I was just building his ladder. Everything I had went into his success, every penny and every ounce of my energy. I was celebrating his promotion, a victory we both supposedly earned through hard work. Tonight was supposed to be our night, a new beginning after all the struggle. Then the door opened, and the man I sacrificed everything for finally arrived. But he wasn't looking for me. He was looking at someone else. They walked in like they owned the world, while my world began to tilt. I felt a cold shiver run down my spine as I watched them approach. He looked different, sharper, colder, like a stranger wearing my husband's face. The betrayal didn't start with a word. It started with the way he looked at me. "Hannah, what are you doing here?" "I told you I had a business dinner tonight." "Marcus, it's our anniversary. You said you'd try to make it. And who is?" "Marcus, darling, is this the hometown friend you mentioned? The one who looks after your old apartment?" A hometown friend. That's what 5 years of marriage amounted to. He didn't even have the courage to tell her the truth about us. "Don't embarrass me, Hannah. Chloe is the chairman's daughter. My entire career depends on this evening. Take a taxi and go home. We'll talk later. Just get out of here before you ruin everything." "Is it just your career that depends on her, Marcus, or is it your loyalty too?" He didn't answer. The silence was louder than any shouting could ever be. He walked back to his new life, leaving me standing in the wreckage of my old one. I stood there, a ghost in a room full of people who didn't see me. The velvet box remained on the table, a forgotten monument to a dead promise. Outside, the sky finally broke. It was like the world was crying for me. I walked out of that warmth and into the storm, not caring if I got soaked. Every drop of rain felt like a cold reminder of how much of a fool I'd been. This was the end of the woman I used to be. The heartbreak was just the beginning. The apartment we shared felt like a museum of a life that never really existed. Every piece of furniture, every book, I had paid for it all with my own sweat. I saw our wedding photo on the mantel. He was smiling then. Or maybe he was just practicing. I put the photo face down. I couldn't look at the lie anymore. I sat in the kitchen, the silence of the house echoing the emptiness in my chest. I realized then that I wasn't just his wife. I was his investor, and he was a bad debt. Morning didn't bring peace, only the cold clarity of what needed to be done. I started with my clothes. Each piece was a reminder of the jobs I worked to afford his dreams. I left his suits hanging in the closet. They were his only armor, and they were hollow. I heard the key in the lock. The moment of truth had arrived. He didn't look guilty. He looked like a man who had already moved on. He wasn't here to apologize. He was here to finish the job. "Sign it. I've left you the apartment and a fair settlement. Chloe and I getting married next month. Her father is making me the vice president. You and I, we just live in different worlds now, Hannah." "Different worlds? You mean the world I paid for?" "I worked 12-hour shifts, so you could finish your degree. I paid your family's debts." He just scoffed. To him, my sacrifice was just another resource he'd used up. "Money can buy back your time, Hannah, but it can't buy you a place in high society. Let's face it, you're a simple girl. You don't belong where I am going." My hand was steady. The sorrow in my eyes was hardening into something else entirely. I signed the paper with a sharp, definitive stroke. The link was finally broken. "You're right, Marcus. We do live in different worlds. And very soon, you're going to realize exactly which one you belong in." I didn't look back. There was nothing left in that house worth saving. I was walking away with nothing but my pride and a burning desire for justice. The rain hadn't stopped, but I didn't feel the cold anymore. I stood at the curb, a lone figure in a vast, indifferent city. Suddenly, a pair of headlights cut through the mist, heading straight for me. Fate had arrived, and it was driving a very expensive car. Miss Hannah, I believe we have a common acquaintance, and a common goal. I didn't know who he was, but I could tell he wasn't like Marcus. He handed me a dossier. Marcus's name was printed on the front in bold letters. Who are you? Why are you helping me? Call me Edward. I represent a world that Marcus thinks he's conquered. Get in, Hannah. It's time to show him the real cost of his lies. The dossier was full of secrets Marcus thought were buried deep. He hadn't just betrayed me, he was betraying his company and his future father-in-law. We spent weeks tracing the money, building a case that was airtight. I learned the language of business, the world Marcus said I didn't belong in. Edward saw the potential in me that Marcus was too blinded by ego to notice. We weren't just seeking revenge, we were seeking the truth. To defeat a man like Marcus, I had to become someone he wouldn't recognize. I shed the simple girl he mocked and stepped into the power I always possessed. Every lesson Edward taught me was a weapon I would use against my ex-husband. I wasn't just hiding, I was evolving. Marcus thought he'd left me in the mud. He had no idea I was learning to fly. The countdown to the Mirage Tech merger had begun. The stage was set. All we needed was the audience and Marcus's arrogance. We had access to the entire system. Marcus's own presentation would be his undoing. Are you ready for this, Hannah? Once we start, there's no going back. I've been ready since the moment he called me a hometown friend. We are going to give him the grand entrance he always wanted. For all the wrong reasons. Tomorrow, the world will see who Marcus Vance really is. Marcus woke up thinking today was the first day of his reign. He had no idea it was actually the day his kingdom would crumble. He was surrounded by luxury, but it was all built on a foundation of lies. Meanwhile, Chloe was preparing for the wedding, oblivious to her fiancé's true nature. They were both living in a fantasy world, and I was about to burst their bubble. The trap was set. The predator was about to become the prey. The gala was everything Marcus loved: glittering, expensive, and superficial. Every important name in the industry was there to witness his supposed triumph. Marcus moved through the crowd like a king, soaking in the praise he didn't deserve. He was at the peak of the mountain. He forgot that the higher you climb, the harder the fall. The air was thick with expectation and the scent of expensive perfume. I watched from the shadows, waiting for the perfect moment to step into the light. This merger represents the pinnacle of my strategic vision. I want to thank my beautiful fiancée, Chloe, for believing in a vision that others simply couldn't comprehend. He was so full of himself, he didn't notice the screen behind him start to flicker. He thought he had everyone fooled. He thought the simple girl was gone forever. But the truth has a way of coming to light, especially when it's forced. And then, the show really began. Suddenly, the corporate slides vanished, replaced by a much more interesting story. The video showed Marcus meeting with a corporate spy, betraying the very company he was about to lead. The crowd gasped. The sound of 1,000 whispers rising in the room. Then came the financial ledger, millions in hidden offshore accounts under his name. He had embezzled funds from Chloe's father's company to pull off the deal. Marcus stood there, frozen, his face turning as white as his shirt. Marcus, what is the meaning of this? No, this is a mistake. Someone hacked the system. Turn it off. But the system wasn't hacked. It was finally working correctly. Chloe dropped her champagne glass, the sound of breaking crystal cutting through the air. The entire room was staring at the man who thought he was their king. And then, the heavy double doors at the back of the room swung open. The crowd parted like the Red Sea. They didn't even know who they were moving for. I wasn't the simple girl anymore. I was the architect of his destruction. It's no mistake, Marcus. Every single document on that screen is fully verified. Marcus looked like he'd seen a ghost in a very expensive dress. Hannah? You're behind this? You're just a nobody. How could you do this? You have no power in this world. She isn't a nobody. She is the newly appointed Chief Operations Officer of my firm, and she is the person who just saved this entire industry from a thief. The investigators stepped onto the stage. The game was over. Marcus Vance, you are under arrest for corporate espionage, embezzlement, and fraud. Chloe slaps Marcus across the face before bursting into tears. The chairman turned his back completely. Marcus was left with nothing. I told you, Marcus. Money can't buy you a place in high society, and a lie can never build a kingdom. He looked broken, desperate, and utterly ruined. The man who thought he was a king. As he passed me, I didn't feel the need to shout. The truth was loud enough. The sun was beginning to rise over the city. A new day was starting. I walked out of that room with a new world waiting for me.